Let's start off. Let's just start by talking about the logistics of what went down at that tribal council, man. Did you all talk? First off, did you all talk about the possibility of an idol being played?
We did talk about the possibility of an idol being played. It's funny. It actually goes back to last week. We initially thought that Matt had an idol, and that's why he was so frantic to get his bag. So that kind of carried over to this week where we thought, all right, if Matt doesn't have it, then either Franny or Danny had it. So we knew that there was a possibility one of them had it. We just didn't know who it was. Honestly, I thought we had a plan. That was on me for not double checking with everybody before we went to tribal. We actually started painting our flag, the Vava flag, and completely lost track of time. Next thing you know, time to go to tribal, and I'm like, oh, I didn't check in with literally anybody. So, that was 100% my fault. Nothing I can't blame on anybody else. It was a great move by Danny, and I probably would have done the same thing. So,
well, I assume you thought going to tribal that you had 7 people on your side. You had 7 votes. So was there any
mhm.
discussion about splitting the votes in case an idol played?
There was. So we had talked about that very like as soon as we had got back from the challenge, that was a possibility. After I had actually heard that my name was possibly being thrown out there. It was just we never determined. We kind of had like a gray area where we're like, all right, you might be the one who votes for Danny. I'm gonna vote for Franny. This person does this. And we never, came back together and said, all right, this is solidified what's gonna happen. So, as those votes were being read, I'm like, all right, Franny. I'm like, well, that's too many Franny votes. And I was like, I already knew it was coming after that. Next thing you know, I saw my name and I was like, yep, they got me. They got me. So we did think it was a possibility. I personally thought that we were splitting the votes, but I don't think that everybody else was necessarily on the same page, or they already knew what the plan was and they just kind of were coddling me until we got to that point.
So after Danny, you kind of got in this a little bit, but after Danny then plays his idol for Franny, at that moment when you're sitting there at tribal, what do you think is going to happen on the vote?
I actually thought that we split the votes. So it's funny, they didn't show it, but I actually look over to Lauren. I'm like, he has no idea what he just did. Because I'm thinking he played it for Franny and we have a plan for this. And then as the votes being read, well, it's the first thing that alarmed me was the look that Lauren gave back to me. Was like, and I was like, oh no. I'm like, because I knew she was supposed to be one of the ones I thought was voting for Danny too. And when she looked at me like that, I was like, oh no, this is bad. Next thing you know, and that's actually when I say, oh my gosh. Next thing you know, Franny. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's gonna be me. It's gonna be
So,
me. So
so who did you think, do you remember? I know this was a long time ago and you already said it was a little confusing. Do you remember at all who was supposed to be on Danny, who was supposed to vote for Danny?
that's why I know like I just didn't play it right because I can't remember. I know that I thought that Lauren was. I feel like I thought that Carson was and possibly Jam Jam as well. I knew that one of the things I said was I didn't want to put Danny's name down. In the case that he did play it for himself, I didn't want to, kind of ruin that what I thought was an alliance between me and him for further gameplay. So I purposely said that I wasn't going to vote for Danny. Now, so we had so many conversations that day. I can't remember who I said what to or what conversations were what. At the end of the day, I didn't double check with anybody. So I I can't even answer that question. It is what it is.
Yeah. Tell me, man, what you're feeling as you see the name come up and then you get your torch snuffed. Just what are the emotions and feelings and thoughts like?
It was a bittersweet moment. It's one of those moments where it's like, wow, you think you have everything figured out. You think that you've been a part of the right conversations, and all in that one moment, you realize I've been bamboozled. Like, the script is flipped on me. It's my turn. So it's bittersweet. It's like you're appreciative to be out there, and it's cool in a way as a Survivor fan to have your torch snuffed because a lot of people never get that opportunity. But it's nobody wants to get the torch snuffed at the end of the day. So it was bittersweet. The only thing that was kind of a little bit of a shining light was knowing, all right, I'm about to get some food in a little bit. So at least I'll get some food in the bed. Um, doesn't really do that much for you in the moment, but it's the little victories in life. I always say that was my only little victory in that moment, to be honest.
No, I know it's tough for you bigger guys who need a lot of calories and a lot of fuel being out there. It's especially hard on you all. A few different people I've spoken to after they got voted out, Brandon, have told me and mentioned how close you and Lauren were. We didn't really
Mm-hmm.
see too much of that on the show. What can you say about how you two sort of partnered up in this game?
Yeah, so me and Lauren, we actually got really close very, very early on. So in that first tribal, I actually knew that she had an extra vote. She did tell me. shortly after we all kind of dispersed. She didn't tell me that they were going to be voting for me, but she did tell me that she wasn't going to vote for me. So she was kind of trying to play both sides. But after that moment, it was like, she came back, we talked about it, and we kind of were just like, let's attack this head on. So that's when our alliance really started to kind of form. And then from there on out, it really just became, let's try to get Ratu strong. And it's like, I know I could trust you. You could trust me, because we never, at that point, we'd never lied to each other really. But there was obviously some little bit of bad blood between me and Kane. Me and Matthew, I thought we were tight at that moment, but Lauren was the only one who I knew, like, all right, I think I can actually trust you for, the longevity of this game. So that started to blossom very early. But yeah, they really didn't show much of the relationship that was kind of built there, which was a little bit surprising to me. But obviously, there's so much going on, and there's so much they have to show. I understand. I get it.
What's something else that, like, I mean, there's so much, Brandon, as you're just sort of alluded to, there's so much that happens out there, and they can only show the smallest fraction to actually put in the episode. Is there anything else that happened out there that didn't make it to TV that you wish we had seen? Like, you remember when it happened and you were looking forward to seeing it play back, and then we sort of never saw it on the show?
There was one moment that I was very curious if they're going to show that relates directly to that last tribal that I had. Jam Jam actually did approach me at one point and say that, Danny was putting my name out there, that I could possibly be a target. Now, he never told me that Danny had an idol, that he was going to play it, but he did put the bug out there that, your name is getting tossed around. So that's why it wasn't a huge surprise to me when it played out how it did, because I had already, heard whispers that, my name was possibly getting thrown out there. So I think, me and Jam Jam, we were kind of getting into a good place, but the Tika Three, they were like you saw, they were in the middle, and they really didn't want to have to choose a side. So they really played it very smart the way they kind of went about it, because it kind of helped them through this tribal.
Yeah, they're letting the two big dogs just fight it out, and they're just sitting there eating popcorn and watching.
Exactly. They're watching the war from the sidelines, because it was definitely a Ratu Soka war that was going on at that time. And, they let it play out how it needed to play out.
Man, how quickly did you regret opening that bird cage in front of the entire tribe?
Immediately. Immediately. It's so funny because, like, I've talked to a lot of people about that situation. Like, why didn't you work with Maddie? Why'd you like tell her and stuff like that? It's funny because when I actually found the idol, I tried to hide it. What they don't,
Yeah.
you might not see. I tried to hide it. I actually tried to put in my underwear, but my underwear were wet, so I didn't have any on. So it literally fell right through my shorts. And that's when you see me standing there with it, like it looks like a bulge in my pants, because I grabbed it before it fell on the ground. And Maddie was already circling around me, so I knew she saw it. And she later confirmed me that yes, she did see it. My whole thing was like, for one, I didn't know it was an idol in the cage at that moment. I did think it was probably an advantage, but I didn't think it was an idol. Two, I didn't want to have to play under Maddie's thumb, because we'd already had conversations leading up to that led me to believe I don't think I could really trust her. And I knew that was just the quickest opportunity for her to be like, all right, well, I got this on Brandon. This is ammo against him. I can either use it against him, or I could play with him. But that was up to her to decide, not me. Instead of putting another target on my back, I'd rather just go out, let everybody know, hey, I found the key. This is what it is. We'll figure out what it is together. And then as soon as I opened it up, I immediately regretted it. Immediately, because not only did I have an idol, but I also had a fake idol, which now has absolutely no power, because everybody's seen, exactly what it looks like, and that I have it. So it was a bittersweet moment. I mean, it kind of obviously, everybody who plays Survivor, you want to find the idol. I just didn't want it to be public knowledge on day one. You know.
There are some people on this season who clearly are Survivor obsessives, who have studied every episode and done all this game theory. I got the feeling, tell me if I'm wrong, but I got the feeling you were not one of those people. What was your relationship to the show, and how did you end up on it?
See, I'm a casual Survivor watcher. Me and my dad, we started watching very early on when I was younger. We would watch every season together. And then, after I moved away to college, that's when I kind of fell off. I didn't have cable. I just had a lot going on with football and other things. I didn't really watch much TV. So I kind of fell away from the show for a little while until I moved back to Philadelphia about 3 years ago. And that's when we started watching again. And then the way I actually ended up, applying for the show was after one of the episodes, Jeff says, this could be you. Sign up on Survivor. So I was like, my dad was like, you need to go ahead and put your audition in. So I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's do it and see what happens. I actually made a video that night. And I got contacted pretty shortly after that to, continue make another video and do the whole application process. But I mean, honestly, it's one of the best decisions I made, because it's been an amazing experience. I met some amazing people. I love everybody on our cast. I think we have a great group of people that, outside of the show, obviously, I think it's fun to watch us, but outside of the show, I think everybody's like really cool, really level headed, and just a bunch of characters. So, I'm blessed to have been on this season, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity.
Yeah, you definitely have some characters on this season. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
Whom did you want to sit with at the end? Had you made it to the final three in your head? Who did you want sitting next to you?
In my head, I would have probably said I wanted Lauren sitting next to me, and that third spot was kind of up in the air. It really kind of played depending on how it played out. For a while I thought Danny, but at the same time I knew that he was gaming. He was really playing a good game to me. So I probably wouldn't have wanted to take him to the final three. So I would have probably had to say Lauren and Jamie, honestly. I think they would have been the two that I would have chosen to try to take with me to the end.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, man. Before I let you go, what's harder, NFL training camp or Survivor?
They both have their difficulties. I'll be honest. I mean, Survivor's different in a whole different way. I mean, you're never in a situation where you're stripped of food, water, or not water, but food, all the luxuries in life. Your phone, your family. So it's way more of a mental game, and then I would say football. It's a lot more physical in the sense of you're not eating. You're spending calories all day. You're actually out there, trying to survive. So I say Survivor was a lot harder than I would have ever expected, a lot harder than I would have expected, especially starting off with that sweat challenge and those first couple challenges. From that regard, I'd probably say Survivor, honestly.
You know what? That's what they all say. All the NFL players that go on Survivor, they always say, like, I thought training camp, I thought 2-a-days were bad. Nothing like
Yeah,
this.
it's a whole different monster, to be honest. It really is. But it was a blast. I had a great time doing it.